as much as I've been loving the Studio Series 86 Leader Class Dinobots so far, I was absolutely ecstatic when they announced little Core Class versions of the Dinobots coming in Legacy. Plus, with the fact that they combined into Volcanicus, I was instantly sold. And now, we've got the first two in hand, so why don't we go ahead and see how they stack up on today's deceptibot9 Transformers Reviews. How's it going, everyone? deceptibot9 here, and thank you as always for joining me here on the channel. It does really truly mean a lot to me. Before we get into the review, I'd like to ask, if you like what you see, go ahead and leave a like. And if you like what you see and want to stay tuned for all the future content I've got planned, go ahead and subscribe as well. It would make me very, very happy. Alright, and if you want to follow me anywhere else on the internet, you can find me on TikTok at deceptibot9, on Twitter at deceptibot9, and on Instagram at deceptibot9reviews. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Legacy Evolution Core Class Slug and Sludge. Alright, and here we are with a closer look at Slug and Sludge. These guys, right off the bat, I want to say, are a whole lot of fun. Yes, Sludge looks very, very goofy and has some interesting design choices in robot mode, but overall, I have been having a blast with both of these guys. And honestly, I think they look great, and they're just a lot of fun in hand to mess around with. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the details on these guys. Let's go ahead and start with Slug first. All right, getting a closer look at Slug here, we can see his head mold there is nice, even though it is really tiny. I like the red on it, plus the blue eyes look really, really nice for how small they are. We can see, of course, up here the dinosaur head, which we'll see more in a little bit when we get him into dinosaur mode. Some detail here on the back, which looks very reminiscent, of course, of traditional Slug, plus a little bit of details on the arms. Obviously, it's not as much as we're going to get on the bigger figures because they are core class, but they still look very, very nice. I like the red paint here on the chest as well. We get the interior of the Triceratops mouth. Nice little black hands. They are, there's another one right there, under the weapon and tail piece right there. Plus, we get some nice molded detail on the tops of the legs and on the legs themselves down here, which form the back of the dinosaur, plus the little dinosaur legs right there. You can see not a lot of paint on him. Obviously, most of this is done in the regular gray, but we get, obviously, paint up here on the head, on the chest, hands, down here on the feet for the weapon part, and on the back. Really, the only place we're getting any paint here on the back is for the dinosaur head, so the gold Autobot logo and the blue eyes as well. But, I mean, overall, he is a nice-looking dude in robot mode. Big hollow legs, but again, he's a $10 figure. Not going to complain about that too much for... All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the articulation on Slug really quick. So, his head is on a ball joint, it appears. You don't get a lot of movement out of it just due to the way that it is molded, but you can see it kind of rocks around a little bit, so you can get him kind of going side to side, a little bit up, very little down, but it does swivel all the way around as well, being on that ball joint. The arms here, they go all the way around. Just gotta get them out of the way of the stuff on the back, and they do pivot all the way up and around because that is part of transformation. That is it for the arms. No elbows and no wrist, unfortunately. I can live with it, but I do wish it had something in there. Now, here's where it gets a little weird. He does have a waist swivel because you can see it in there, but with the way the wings are supposed to be transformed in Dino and Robot mode, it locks it in place. But if you open this up, which is more so for the combined mode, if you open that up at all, it gives you access to the waist swivel, which you can swivel then all the way around. So sometimes I don't mind posing him where I get the back wings kind of out a little bit more because it gives me a little bit of a turn on the waist. Legs go forward that far, backwards that far as well. Pretty great range there on ball joints, obviously. And for the splits, though, if you get everything out of the way, it's kind of a struggle, but he can get all the way full. You just got to move a lot of pieces around to get him there. Knees here are on ball joints as well, so they bend all the way around thanks to transformation, plus they can also swivel as well. Oop. Popped out the weapon. While we're here, we might as well take a quick look at it. Not a lot going on. It is nice painted gold, plus a little bit of gold here. This is going to form the tail in dino mode, but if you look on the bottom, you will actually see that this is the head of Volcanicus, which is a separate piece, which is really interesting, but it makes sense for a core class, and it does look really nice. But we'll talk about that again in a little bit. So let's go ahead, put this back into its 5mm peg, and that's about all you can do with the weapon. You can put it there in his little hand in robot mode. You can't store it anywhere else. So if you don't want to have this little gun in robot mode, you're going to have to put it off to the side. All right, so before we get this guy transformed up into dinosaur mode, I want to go ahead and take a look at a few comparisons. Here he is, just a straight side-by-side with Sludge, who we'll take a look at here in a minute. Here he is with the one who started it all, core class Optimus Prime, and you can see Slug, thanks to the top of his dinosaur head, is a little bit taller than Optimus Prime. Obviously, core class figures are not really going to be in scale with anything else besides maybe the bigger figures, depending on which character you're talking about. But I love the core class anyway, so I do not really care about scaling in core class whatsoever. And of course, just so we can see, here is core class Slug with leader class Slug. Quite a big size difference between these two guys, but they're both really, really good and fun in their own right. All right, let's go ahead and transform Slug into his dinosaur mode. And here is core class Slug transformed up into his Triceratops mode. And as you saw, it is a very, very simple and straightforward transformation, which is always really nice on these core class figures. And despite the fact that it's simple and straightforward, it still manages to be a lot of fun. I have found myself not being able to put this guy down for a while because I love just flipping him back and forth between the two modes. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of the new details that are exposed here on Triceratops mode. There's not many new actual details exposed on him here in this mode because we saw everything in robot mode. It's all just in a different place now, but we can get a better look at the Triceratops head in full now that we have a secondary mouth. I love the way the gold turned out with the blue eyes up there as well. And of course, it looks great having a full little mouth that you can still use to open up as a mouth if you would like, and it has a semblance of a head in there, so if you look at it through the wrong angle, there it is. You can see now the front side of the Triceratops arms. There's not really much going on there. You can get a better look at the details here that were on the back of the figure, but now are on the top. Plus here is the Triceratops legs yet again, and the robot legs, which are now the back half of the back of the Triceratops. And here's this piece now as a tail. So nothing really crazy going on here in Triceratops mode. And for the most part, he is kind of a brick. There is a little bit of articulation. It's just retained from the arms, so they go forward. You can swivel them all the way around if you would like, but you're going to expose the hand up there. They do go out though as well, so if you want to get him in kind of like a splayed out exasperated pose, you could do that. And the back legs here, back Triceratops legs, are just on a swivel, so they do go most of the way around. They do get blocked a little bit and have to go out of the way to go fully all the way around. But yeah, there is Slug in his Triceratops mode. So let's see how he looks with some other figures, shall we? All right, here is Slug with core class Optimus Prime. You can kind of see that Slug is, decently big in his Triceratops mode, which is great because obviously I love when dinosaurs are nice and big. So there is Optimus and Slug together. And here is core class Slug with leader class Slug. And there's something about Slug's Triceratops mode that I love so very much. It's so adorable, but you can kind of see the similarities between the two here. You know, we got the gold on the front of the head, we got the blue eyes, a gray going all around, and you can even see some of the detail that they put in on the small figure, like these little side pauldrons exist on the big figure as well, and some of the smaller details. So, and on the legs too, some of this, like those circles and stuff. It's really cool to see which pieces got translated into the tiny mode. It's so much fun having a little baby version. It's like Slug and his son. I love it. All right, that's about it for Slug as an individual. We'll go ahead and hop over to Sludge, and then we'll look at the combined mode stuff at the very end. All right, let's get up close and personal with Sludge here. Looking at this head sculpt, it looks very much like Sludge. I love the way it looks. I wish they would have painted the eyes a little bit more, because it can be hard to tell that they are in there, but there they are. Okay, moving down to the chest, we got lots of nice molded detail going on here with some painted black, painted red, and making our way down and over across. We can see there's just nice panel lining all over the place, or not panel lining, but panel molded lines going on throughout all of them there. We get a little bit more paint. I think this is paint, actually. I don't know. This could be a whole molded in black piece. Yeah, this is molded in black. This little skirt piece is molded in black. There is some molded detail in there. It's kind of hard to tell because of the way the black is. These ones right here, the bottom of the feet, are painted black. Moving down, just a little bit more detail on the legs and stuff here, with some gold paint there for the toes. Coming around to the sides, you can just see a lot of this nice mechanical detail on the side of his arm, which is what will become his dinosaur belly. There's his whole brontosaurus head just sticking out there on the back. More detail and a lot of kind of exposedness. There's not a lot of hollow on him per se. The inside of the legs are a little bit, but not like Slug where you're looking at the back of a bunch of hollow. But so for the most part, I mean, you know, detail wise, Sludge looks good. Now, of course, we need to talk about the brontosaurus in the room here, being the way they designed these legs is a little wonky. I'm not quite sure why they did that as such, and I don't know. I feel like I almost would have preferred it if they had just not included this piece right here and it was just dinosaur leg attached to dinosaur body. I don't know. It does look a little bit weird if you're going to try to pose him where his leg goes up like this or something. It's just a weird kind of disconnect. It works in service of the combination gimmick, of course, which kind of makes him as an individual lack a little bit, but I find that tends to happen when you have combiners. Usually there's probably at least one that slacks a little bit. If I remember correctly with Combiner Wars Devastator, which I don't actually own, but I've heard a lot about, you know, there's a lot of, you know, corners cut to be in service of the combination for the figure. So the same thing here with a tiny version of Volcanicus. We have to keep that in mind. But all that aside, let's go ahead and look at his articulation here in robot mode. The head is on a swivel, so it can swivel not all the way around. That's about as far as it goes. And there's no up or down movement there. Arms up here are on ball joints, so they can swivel all the way around. They can go out that far. Technically, if you open or move the brontosaurus head on the back, you can swivel them in. That's more so for transformation, but it is something you certainly could do. Another that is meant for transformation, but you can use here in robot mode, is a swivel up here on the upper torso. The legs, again, this is where it gets weird. So they swivel forward that much, backwards a good amount. They can go out, not really. But then they swivel at the thigh, quote unquote, up here all the way around. Obviously that's for transformation into combined mode. And the knees here are on ball joints, so they do bend all the way around like that. And you can kind of pivot them, but not really. So there's a lot of articulation points on him overall, but he's not the most posable of dudes just because of the way he's shaped. So let's go ahead and look at some comparisons to other figures, shall we? All right, here is Sludge with Core Class Optimus Prime, and you can see that Sludge is only about the same height as Optimus Prime, so He is technically a little shorter than Slug, just because Slug has that extra dinosaur head at the top. But I do like the way the Dinobots look with the little Optimus Prime, to be honest with you. And of course, here is little Sludge Jr. with big Papa Sludge. You can really see the difference in design aesthetic on these two is pretty wild. Obviously, this one doesn't combine and this one combines, so there is that. But it still is really neat to have a little mini version of this guy. All right, let's go ahead and get Sludge transformed up into dinosaur mode. Alright, and here is baby Sludge in his Brontosaurus mode. It is small and it is stubby, but it's also equally kind of really charming. I really dig the little Brontosaurus mode. I like it a lot more than I like the robot mode. I think there's just something so much fun about this little Brontosaurus. So let's go ahead and take a look at some newly exposed detail, shall we? All right, getting in close here, we can get a better look at the head sculpt of the dinosaur, obviously painted all in gold, with a little bit of blue eyes there and an Autobot symbol at the top. Nice gray molding plastic there. Now here's one of the glaring issues of the dinosaur modes. You go to the front, and there's nothing covering this. It's just a big open gap, which again, it is a small $10 figure who does technically is a triple changer, so I can't fault it too much. I do wish there had been something a little more solid there to cover up that little gap, because if you look at it straight on, it does look a little weird. From the side, it's not too bad, but here on the top part, we can see these, in a new light. Obviously, the molded detail up here at the top, which were the sides of the arms. These were the feet and the bottom of the legs, so they look very nice all up there. And here is the dino legs, which are actually kind of new because it was harder to see some of these pieces here. You can see all the little detail that is reminiscent, of course, of what bigger Sludge looks like, and we'll see that when we compare him here in a minute. And here is kind of the bottom of Sludge. Not really a whole lot going on, but it's kind of tucked up and folded away. There is also a big gap right here in between the torso and the arms, which doesn't bother me actually a whole lot, but it is quite noticeable as well. So there is little tiny Sludge in his Brontosaurus mode. Let's go ahead and compare him to some other figures really quick, and then we can get into combined mode. All right, since we didn't see it yet, here is Sludge and Slug together in robot mode, and this is really, or not robot mode, dinosaur mode. This is really weird. Slug is a lot bigger than Sludge, which I know I said I don't really care for scaling in core class, but it seems really weird that a Triceratops is bigger than a Brontosaurus, but they do still look quite nice together, so I guess I'll go ahead and let it slide. Alright, and here is core Sludge with core Optimus Prime, and again, just like with Slug, you can see Sludge is a little bit bigger than Optimus Prime, which, dinosaur, truck, makes sense, but they still do look pretty dang nice together. Last but not least, here is little Sludge Jr. with Papa Sludge, and you can see, just like Slug, that there are a lot of details on the little guy that are very reminiscent of, the traditional design / the bigger design. So these little detailings up at the top here on Sludge, you can see them in both spots. Some of the details on the legs, just the way the shape is on the big circle and moving down. So again, that's just really neat that they were able to work in a lot of those little tiny details, but you can really see how much bigger, he's a leader class versus a core class, so it makes sense. But yeah, it's just fun to have multiple versions of these classic Dinobots that we love. All right, and last but not least, I want to show off the combined mode for these two, since they both form the torso, so I think together they work as one unit, and then when we get the next segment of Dinobots who will form, individual limbs, these two kind of work together more so as a pair. So let's get them transformed up and connected together for Volcanicus. So now they are ready to be combined, and basically here's how it's gonna work. So these 3 pegs on the bottom of Slug are gonna go into these 3 peg holes on the top of Sludge. Once that happens, there are 2 pegs right here, 5mm pegs on the sides of Slug. That on the inside of the arms of Sludge is what's gonna peg into those. So clip everything, line everything up together, and slide Sludge, or Slug, very similar names, right over the top. Make sure you got clearance here for the arms, and boom. And basically, this is our torso for Volcanicus, and obviously it is a little odd because, oh, you're gonna leave these legs down. There we go. It is a little odd because Grimlock, you would assume, would be in the middle, right? But no. So I think that's why a lot of us are speculating that this will be repainted into Dino King later on, which I would absolutely love. But for now, so far, it is a good looking Volcanicus. All right, so that is going to be it for my closer look at Core Class Sludge and Slug. So let's go ahead and stomp back up to me for my final thoughts. All right, so what are my final thoughts on these 2 little mini Dinobots? Well, overall, I think they are a lot of fun. Now, they do, of course, come with their own set of, I wouldn't say problems, but unique little factors. But for what they are, being little $10 transforming dinosaurs that will also combine with 4 others, I think they're a lot of fun. And I just cannot wait to see how the rest of Volcanicus is shaping up. And hopefully we do get a Dino King repaint out of these guys. Alright guys, that is going to do it for my full review of Legacy, Evolution, Core Class, Slug, and Sludge. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts on the Core Class Dinobots so far down below. I know there's a lot of discourse about them, but I want to know what you guys think. So guys, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much. I do really truly appreciate all of you who stick around to the very end. And as always, I have been your host, deceptibot9. Thank you all for joining me here today, and I'll see you guys later.